You are now tuned in to the Indie LA experience.
This is Indie LA.
Marcus, I don't know about you, but there's so much noise sometimes, when you're working and you're grinding and you're doing so many different projects. Sometimes you just kind of need that moment to reset, or that if it's an hour, alone to kind of reorganize your thoughts and things. Is there anything that you do, or anything that you kind of practice to help yourself kind of reset, or, pull away and re-energize?
Yeah, definitely some sort of like anything involved in nature, whether it's like a walk, if it's just going outside and just like getting a fresh breath of air. But yeah, if I have like a long performance or something and there's a lot of music involved, I'll listen to a podcast.
Mhm.
I'll completely, I won't like have anything that's like music related or read something. Just like definitely taking that break makes me like appreciate coming back to it. Yeah.
Where you can like kind of be a listener, or, taking information in without having to feel like you have to give back to it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a process like that?
I'm a big walker too. Walking is kind of my source of meditation, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I'll walk for an hour or 2 hours a day just to, kind of be with my thoughts. I love that. But I'm very much the same way. Like even music in the car sometimes now, I don't even do that so much anymore, especially since we started doing the podcast.
Yeah.
I love listening to podcasts. I find it way more relaxing.
Yeah.
And just to like listen and take that in and be like gaining information, as opposed to just almost like hearing noise.
Yeah, I observe more too
Mhm.
when I'm in like silence. So like that helps.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just good to be comfortable being in silence with yourself and your thoughts.
Yeah, and we get into that with our next guest.
I had to like sit by myself and write again, and I felt just so much better being able to do that as well, and to like really like sit with myself and find peace in the present moment.
Our guest today just released her new single, 94. She's got another new single coming out next month, leading up to her brand new EP in the new year. Let's welcome Chloe Caroline to the podcast.
Yay! Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I appreciate it.
So we want to get right into it. How'd you get started with songwriting, and what inspired you to take this path in life?
Yeah, I've been writing since I was 6. I started taking piano when I was 6 too, and I grew up in a really musical household, so I was always around it. And for some reason, music just was always what I used to like self-soothe, like even like as
Okay.
a little kid, like falling asleep at night, like I'd always be just singing to myself. Like I've always kind of been an insomniac, so that's what I'd be doing. And then I always found myself gravitating towards lyrics that, obviously sparked emotion, even though I didn't necessarily understand what they were talking about.
Okay.
And I've always been kind of an old soul, and I don't know. I think it's just kind of ingrained in me. It's definitely runs in my family, no doubt. My dad was a singer-songwriter. My grandfather was as well. So it definitely is just in me. But at the same time, like, it's like I have a sister and she can sing, but it's not her path, So it's definitely something I just have felt called to do. And then when I was 11, I got really sick and was like pulled out of 6th grade and very isolated. And in that, found myself again gravitating towards music on like a whole other level. Like it is what I use to feel connected and like digest what I was going through, because it was really difficult. It was a life-threatening illness. And so it became, like my friend. And I taught myself guitar, and eventually started posting on Facebook when I got a Facebook page in like 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know you said your dad played music, your
Mhm.
grandfather played music. You grew up in Canada, correct?
I grew up in California, but
California.
I'm half Canadian. And so I spent like 3 months of my whole life every single year there. Went
Okay.
to preschool there.
I'm
Yeah.
also Canadian.
No way. What part?
I'm from Vancouver Island, but
Okay.
I went. You were in Kingston, I believe.
Kingston. Yeah.
I went to preschool and the first half of elementary school in Oakville, Ontario.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really close to my family's cottage there. They have like a little lake cottage.
Yeah, yeah.
wow.
So what kind of music was your dad playing? My
Yeah.
parents were musical too. My dad played a lot of music. He still does, but
Yeah.
they were kind of rock. They played a lot of like Motown type
Oh,
stuff. So
yeah.
that's kind of always what my musical taste has been.
Yeah, my dad, I mean, he was in a ton of rock bands. It was like 80s, 80s hair band with the white leather pants,
Yeah.
like the feathered hair, like
Okay.
that sort of vibe.
Nice.
But he loved country. He loves like the Rolling Stones, like which are also influenced by country, even though they're rock.
Yeah.
So kind of those vibes. But I grew up listening to everything. I mean, Frank Sinatra, Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, like Carole King,
Yep.
all the classics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were like an old soul, like as a young kid. I felt like I gravitated towards like the older like genres of music too, and I kind of leaned into jazz music as a young kid,
That's awesome.
like instrumental. And you said that you used to like sing to yourself like at night. I used to
Yeah.
like play like a track, like a jazz song from
Yeah.
like Sonny Rollins, like at night. That would like help me like go to
love
sleep. Like as a kid.
I did Kenny G. That was my
Oh,
thing
all
for a
right.
while. Yeah.
Yes, yes, the lullabies. I always say like one day I'm gonna make like a lullaby album.
Oh, yeah.
Just like at some point in my career, because why not?
Yeah. I know with some of your new songs, like I find your lyrics, you're very vulnerable, I think, in your lyrics
Thank you.
and your storytelling, which I think is great. Do you feel that that's the response from doing that has been positive?
It has, yeah. I feel like I mean, whenever you open up, people feel more comfortable opening up as well, and that's kind of my goal is to allow people to feel comfortable in their own skin so that we can better connect. And you can do that if you feel understood, and like people will understand you and listen. And so for me, like that's what kind of my chance to do that. And it's like how I process my life and my feelings. And I always say like I feel like I'd be a crazy person if I didn't have music as an outlet because like I mean I remember like going through like a really terrible breakup and I was like sitting on my bed and like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what people do. Like what do people do that don't have this? Like this is exactly how I'm working through this right now. And obviously people have their own outlets, but for me it's music. So
Well, you said that some of your relationships have been like an influence for you to like write songs. Like I'm wondering what that process looks like for you.
I think it definitely changes. A lot of time, especially if I'm like right in something, like in the midst of it, it's like me sitting down, at the keyboard or with my guitar by myself often. And I don't necessarily know what I'm going to write, but it just kind of comes out. That's all I can explain it as. Like I'll just kind of start, like playing some chords and some lyrics kind of flow out. And I always say it's like not me. It's definitely like higher power, no doubt. But then, there's things that I'm super intentional with, and I walk into a writing session. I'm like, I want to write about this, and sometimes I'll come in with a chorus or something, or sometimes I come with a title, and that's it. And we start from square one and just kind of have a therapy session, So it's fun. It's a cool way to have both. I love co-writing because you get people that have different strengths that you don't necessarily have. Maybe they're far better guitar player. Like I feel like I'm at a certain point which, I'd hope to like expand upon one day, but there are people that like that's their thing, and they can play something that sparks an idea for me, and that's the best part, Yeah, so it's I don't know, both ways I love.
And how does that how do you find like your songs like vary when you collaborate with somebody versus when you like go alone?
Yeah. I would say I think there's a little bit more probably like diversity in my stuff when it's with somebody else because you're getting the influence of another person maybe, or maybe it's just it expands me farther, I guess. I do something that maybe I normally wouldn't do, but when I'm alone, I feel like my words are just like the most authentic they could possibly be, and it's just Chloe. You know what I mean? It's literally just like stream of consciousness, Chloe. So there's something really special about that. And I remember I was living in Nashville for a number of years and had sessions like 2 times a day sometimes, and I love songwriting. It's if I could do it every single day at every moment I would, but it got to the point where I was so burnt out I wasn't really like living, I didn't really have anything to pull from anymore, and I stopped writing by myself because I was going into these sessions with other people just all the time, and I got to the point where I felt like I wouldn't even give myself the time to write by myself because I felt like I was like wasting time. I was like, I should be in a session. And then COVID happened and I just moved back here, ironically, before that. And that's all I could do. Is I did end up having some like Zoom sessions and stuff too, but I had to like sit by myself and write again. And I felt just so much better being able to do that as well, and to like really like sit with myself in peace and in the present moment, find peace in the present moment, because it's easy to not do that, I guess.
And get distracted.
Yeah, exactly. And to like allow yourself to start creating, and if you hit a block, you hit a block, and you can come back to it instead of being so self-critical, which is oftentimes what artists do, even though we shouldn't.
Yeah. What are some things that help you kind of overcome those obstacles when you're writing and you hit those walls?
Ooh.
Yeah, the writing block.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it literally is just you take a break, especially if I'm in a session with somebody else. Like it's, hey, let's come back to it in a week or a couple weeks or whatever. And then I'll spend some time with it alone and, not have like the pressure, just the energy of somebody else in the room. And I can really be like, what do I, especially if I'm the artist on the song, is this what I want? You know what I mean? So sometimes I do that. Other times I just kind of try something new, I'll just try to go a different direction, maybe mess up the chords a little bit, go to a different part of the song.
Does it usually start with like a hook or a line, or do you kind of hear it first and then you?
I would say oftentimes it starts with like a lyric. I would say a lyric. And then it's not like fully fleshed out. It's like I'll get the melody really strong, and then I go back in and I do like a deep dive into the lyrics.
Okay.
I like when I'm writing by myself often to do like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, like very structured like that, as opposed to just starting with a chorus, where if I'm in a co-writing session, sometimes we start with the chorus. I find that when I'm writing by myself, that's like easier to develop the story that way, and I'm like literally still figuring it out like as I'm writing, so I don't want to like limit myself and where it could possibly go. So I kind of like to progress that way, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just in order.
Yeah.
Okay. And you talked about like that authenticity in your lyrics and your songwriting process. I kind of want to know like how important that is to you. And then also I want to branch off of that. Have you ever tried to write a song without that in mind? Like, have you ever been given like a prompt or like thought of like a feeling or a situation? And like, if you go that way, does it feel forced? Does it feel like not you?
Yeah. I definitely have been given prompts before, or maybe it's for a different artist, and when it is, because I love doing that too, I try to like dig deep into like what have I been through similarly, or an emotion, at least if I haven't been through that specific thing, and I try to find something personal, because that's definitely where I get my best lyrics from, no doubt. Like if I can't feel it, it's not gonna work. Like I need to feel it. But that's also what's so beautiful about like storytelling, is like just like movies and stuff, like it's not that hard to put yourself in it, when you really just like allow yourself to kind of like, I guess, free yourself up. I don't know. And sometimes I'll like put on another song or an instrumental even that's like kind of that I know will spark that emotion. I'm like heavily affected by music to the point where sometimes like I don't listen to it because like I don't want to feel a certain way. It sounds crazy, okay? Yeah. But like if I got a lot going on in my life, I'm like, I can't, like I'm gonna go on this walk and it's just me, myself, and I in my head. I don't want to hear anything right now because I don't want to feel something. It sounds nuts, but it's true. But with like prompts and stuff like for film and TV, like that's really fun, but it can feel forced, definitely. And I try my best to like separate it from feeling that way, and again like find something that's like a true narrative, whether it's from my life or somebody else's. And then like today actually I had somebody reach out, and they're a producer in Israel, and so obviously with everything going on there, he was like, I think it would be really cool to write something like really powerful, and I was like, sure, let's do it. That was him coming to me. He doesn't really have like a necessarily like a firm idea of what that is. But it still kind of gives me a frame of reference. And so I'm trying to figure out, like on the way here, I was like trying to come up with like different ideas without trying to just pull what I'm seeing on the news. You know what I mean? And make it like super literal. Like how can I still make it personal to me as well?
Yeah, because I mean that personal aspect, I think that's what keeps your listeners listening. Like when they feel like connected to you and they feel like what you're doing is real, like they want to hear more of it for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I would have a really hard time not being real in my music and just doing something just to release it. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I'd hate that.
Well, I know with Boyish and with 94, kind of jumping into those a little bit, you're talking a lot about, I think how you put it, is situationships.
Yeah.
and past relationships and stuff. Is that stuff that you have a hard time talking about, or do you get any kind of like almost like backlash when you're diving into those things and sharing those kind of things in your music?
No, I haven't received any knock on wood. I have not received really any backlash. I think people, because somebody can relate to it, you know, and I try to write my music in a way that's not going to like attack somebody else either. Like even with Boyish, like it's a song definitely inspired by the man children, but I'm fully aware like there are women children in the world and it's not about gender at all. It's about maturity. And so with that in mind, we all know one, you know what I mean? We all know somebody, and it's not necessarily like targeting like you're bad and I'm the greatest thing in the world. It's not that. I wanted it to like encourage people to take back their power and that they don't have to, if some, you know, relationship or connection isn't serving them anymore, that they're allowed to free themselves from it and it's okay. And it's honestly best for both parties involved, you know, and kind of having that outlook on it as opposed to kind of just writing like a man hater song, for example. There's enough people that do that.
I kind of want to touch on this too, because with both those songs, you've put out full music videos as well. What is your process like when you're trying to come up with how to visually tell that story?
It's so much fun. Sometimes I literally have an idea when I'm writing a song and I'll like see it immediately and I'm like, we need to do this sort of video, or it's really obvious. Just based on what I'm talking about in this song. If it's a very specific storyline, like for 94, I really wanted to play out a lot of what actually happened in my situationship, but also I like definitely took some liberties too. Like there are certain scenes that like didn't happen. But there are also lyrics where I didn't show what I was saying because I didn't feel like I needed to. It was already spoken for and I didn't want it to be like that on the nose. And so I kind of took what I wanted and then gave it room to kind of be its own thing and have its own storyline, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I mean, you get to collaborate with your friends and people that believe in your music and brainstorm. And it's a lot of pressure though, because once you get to the point where you're finally making a music video, it's like the song's probably been written for like 4 years, you know? You've like gone through all the production of that and it's like, all right, now it's time to release it. This is a whole other thing. I want to make sure that the video is a representation of how good the song is, or make sure that it speaks to what I'm trying to actually say.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's always interesting. It's a challenge.
Well, where are you pulling influence from when you come up with those visuals? Like, is it movies, other music videos? Like, who's some of your favorites?
That's a good question too. I oftentimes find myself looking at a lot of brand stuff, to be honest. Like there's some really cool brands. Free People, for example, love their clothes, but like they also have an incredible creative team. And so I love their look. I love how it's like very like vintage inspired and again, not too clean cut, if that makes sense. Like I don't love the videos that are just super perfect, you know, like I love a good like shaky cam. Like I want it to feel like you are there, you're
Something
in
raw,
it.
like real life.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like I love the show Friday Night Lights. So I pull from like that show. Like there's like multiple cameras at the same time and all getting different angles, different reactions of things. And yeah, I don't know. So definitely not just music videos. Like I try to pull from a lot of other different cinematic things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back just a little bit. You talked about how you go through like a music experience or something, whether it's like songwriting or performing or something, you'll often take a break and not listen to anything like for a minute. And I can totally relate to that. I'll do like a DJ gig or like play the saxophone for a wedding or something.
Yeah.
It'll be like 4 to 6 like hours of playing music. And that 2-hour drive home, I will just like drive in like silence, just to relax. Yeah. So I kind of want to know like when you are like in that like silence, like is that like a reset like for you, or do you find yourself like getting inspired from like other things that aren't like musical or like visual? Like what are your other?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like you, like, yeah, I love just spending time in the car with the radio off or, no music on. And sometimes I get ideas, definitely, and I'll just like voice memo them. Like I did that on the way here. Just from, like seeing things around me, even seeing like signs. Like sometimes I'll see something, I'm like, that would be a good title for a song. Yeah. Like you never know, or a person walking down the street. I go on walks a lot. I try to walk like 3 miles at least like every day. And I'll sometimes have headphones on, but nothing in them.
I do that too sometimes,
just like, okay,
so no one bothers you a little bit, and just to like have that extra silence.
And just like being in, I live by the beach, so being by the water and around the pretty trees and everything, it's just like being outside is so grounding. And I oftentimes get ideas just that way. Like the best ideas I've gotten are that way, honestly.
Awesome. Do you feel like your ideas like differ from, you said that you spent some time in like Canada, like 3 months out of the year, like from when you're living there to like living in LA?
Yeah. And I mean, now I don't have always have the luxury of getting to like spend that time there. I kind of stopped in like maybe high school when I started doing like cheerleading and stuff. We had to like do like cheer camp and stuff like that. Okay. But I always go every year. I've gone every year my whole life. But yeah, like definitely I always like owe Canada and like my time there in the summers to like my creativity, because it was like where I was running barefoot like with my cousins. Like we had no access to the internet, no phones, just like would leave our friends after school and just be gone for 3 months out of the whole year. And it was like living in like a little heaven that we created and, made up stories. And kids don't have that often anymore. It's like they're always attached, like even if they are on summer vacation. And, I grew up like right around the time that stuff was just happening, I think. And there was just no option. We still didn't all have
cell phones and stuff.
Yeah. Like that, and it was like there was no option. Like I literally, even when I was just there recently, like I actually released 94 when I was in Canada at my family's cottage there, and the Wi-Fi is awful. So it's like good luck, you kind of have to detach, but it's nice.
You kind of forces you to be creative when you're a kid too.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's a cool contrast to like growing up in California too, because I grew up by the beach in a little beach bubble, and it was similar in the way that like, again, a lot of different scenery and nature, and you can kind of brainstorm. I mean, LA is crazy, but I got to get away from that too, and yet still have like the option to like go to the city or go to the desert or whatever. And that definitely influenced me, and just like as a person and my sound, and kind of wanting to be a melting pot, I guess. Yeah.
Well, do you have I'm gonna go way back. We're gonna rewind to little Chloe. Do you have like a moment, or maybe it's a few moments, whether they're like musical or like art inspired, that you can remember that you just knew like, okay, I want to do this like in life? I know you said you had like a lot of family, like you grew up with it, was always around.
Yeah.
Can you like recall like any of those like little times?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, from the time I was in 3rd grade and like my teacher was like, what do you want to be? Like I drew a picture of Britney Spears with a headset. So like, like I definitely knew that's what I wanted to do, but I was also, I think, shy as far as like actually like performing for people, like never with friends, like always very outgoing. But as far as being comfortable just like performing by myself, like I would do like the piano recital and I would do choir and stuff like that, and the talent show like once a year. But I was not the kid that was like center of attention, me, like let me sing for you. And so it wasn't until I was like 11 that I feel like it became, obviously I sang for my sister and my friends and family, but like that's it, like not really beyond that, I guess. Okay. And it wasn't until I was like, like 11 when I got sick that I was like, I want to want to share these songs. Like, I don't know, I felt like a need to. And then I got my Facebook page and I was like, oh, I can do that and I can share it with people. And people are responding saying that they resonate with it. And that's cool. Like, that didn't even like connect to me that that's what it could be. Like, I knew how music affected me, but like, I just didn't realize that like mine had the power to do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so eventually, like when I started seeing those comments, it definitely like built my confidence up, no doubt. And then I'd go to school and have, when I started going to school again, and I had friends that would come up to me as well and be like, I wanna listen to your music. Like, can you record it? And that was really cool. And I just knew like I would always regret it if I didn't go for it. Because there was definitely like a time where I was like, maybe I want to do become like a doctor or something, especially because I had just been so ill and I was like fascinated by the human body and I thought it was so cool, or like something with psychology or just something else with creative writing, because I always have loved creative writing. But I just knew, like, I was like, if I don't try, I am going to regret it. I'm always going to wonder, like, what if? And it was something that like I always did. When the first thing I could do when I was done with cheer practice or homework, like, it was get my guitar and start playing. And it still is. Like, that's why it's like the curse of the artist is like, even if I was like, I'm done tomorrow, I'm done, I'm throwing my career away, like, that's it, I'm going to go do something else. I know that I wouldn't be done. Like, I'd still, like, it's just what I do. I write. It's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, you're still going to pick up the guitar and start strumming.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
You said that you were ill when you were younger. Myself too, I was also quite sick as a kid, and I had to have a bone marrow transplant. And I wasn't allowed to do like sports and things like that as a kid. I would get like bruise and bleed really easily. And I always wanted to play hockey. I always wanted to do sports. And I was always kind of held back from that. So like the minute I was actually healthy and okay, I felt like I had all this extra drive that kind of carried through my athletic career.
Sure.
Did you ever have that kind of thing with music where you like couldn't really dive into it because of other things that were going on? Do you think that kind of gave you more drive now as an artist?
Oh, I think definitely. I mean, and just like not even just with music, with life in general. Like, man, I remember thinking just like the physical things, like they don't matter. Like, I was like, I want to go to school. I want to do my homework. I want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, get out and play sports. I want to, like, just even appreciating getting to like go for a walk. I remember at one point it was like a big deal to like get to go on a walk outside and not be in my house or in the hospital. And I just gained like such an appreciation for taking advantage like of the moment and of the things that actually matter. And then with music, like, it definitely gave me a perspective as far as just like going for what you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, going after your dreams, because like, why else
you
are we? You literally have nothing to lose, you know? And definitely. And I think also like I had kind of like a newfound confidence too. Like, once I started getting better, it was like, here I am, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to like to do this thing. And it definitely still took time to like build up, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, but you said even at like 11, you found that people were connecting to your
music,
and you knew that's what you wanted to do. That's pretty early.
It was funny because I'd never like, I was writing about stuff, of course, that I was going through, but also stuff that I wasn't necessarily experiencing yet, with love and stuff. Like, I was so innocent, and it's just so funny because I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I know when I was 11, I mean, that's when I picked up like the saxophone, and like I just felt lucky to like have one, and I just like knew that I had like an older cousin that I looked up to, and I wanted to like, do what he did.
Yeah.
It didn't really like click for me until like years later that that's like what I wanted to do, but I do remember like as a kid, like you mentioned in like third grade, like you had something. I was like probably around that age too. Actually, fifth grade, I had like fractured my elbow and I had to wear like a cast on my right arm. So I couldn't write or like draw or anything with my right hand.
Yeah.
For like the first few months. Months went by. I was in art class and I could actually like draw just like a little bit, like moving my hand, like eventually, like after that.
Yeah.
And but wearing the cast, my teacher noticed that for some parts I was using my left hand, but I was like, I can't really do it with my left, like my right hand's my strong.
Right.
So most of the drawing was on my right? And I remember her being just fascinated when she saw like it was like a car or something.
Yeah.
She had thought that I did the whole thing with my left hand because I had my thing. And she was like, oh, you're
You're a
ambidextrous.
savant.
Like, yeah. And like when she like, hyped me up, like
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like maybe I am good. Like I didn't know
Yeah.
what that word meant. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, maybe that means I can, write when my arm is a little injured.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But that just kind of like inspired me, and like I wanted to be an engineer and
Yeah.
draw things like an auto engineer. I didn't know
Yeah.
what an auto engineer meant at the time.
Right.
I
Someone
thought
who draws cars.
I thought I could just
Like,
draw cars.
I love
like,
drawing
yeah.
cars. Yeah.
But that inspired me to like want to just like take art seriously.
Right.
And
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, my parents signed me up for like a summer like art class. Like I
Mhm.
went for like 2 summers.
Yep.
And then I remember just like focusing on art in like high school and
Yeah.
like always having that elective in all of my
Yeah.
semesters. But yeah, I think that's ultimately what led me to want to dive into music and like take that seriously
Right.
too. So
Well, yeah, it's funny you bring up your teacher because when I was 11 and when I started going back to school, I transitioned to like a brand new school because my parents were just like, we don't want you to deal with kids like I looked so different. Like I was like 30 pounds thinner as an 11-year-old. Like that's drastic.
Mhm.
And so they're like, let's go for a fresh start. And for the first time ever, I went to a private school, a private Catholic school. And I'm not Catholic. I'll start there. And was definitely like ostracized immediately. It was like the
Oh, yeah.
opposite of like I was like, doesn't matter that you're Christian, you're not Catholic. And, these kids have been going to school with each other since they were like 4 years old. And you're the new kid and it's really small and private school and yada, yada.
Was it like the whole outfits and all
The
that?
whole
too?
outfits. Yeah. And I befriended like this new girl I was the new girl. I befriended the girl that people like bullied often, because I've always been like, I've always done that.
Yep.
And immediately it was like, okay, you're over here and we're over here. And, it was just like it was not good for the first time ever. And I had this teacher though in 7th grade who made everybody come into class and we would just like free write every day about like whatever like was going on in our lives. Like it didn't have to be grammatically correct. It could get up spelling errors. Like it could be run on sentences. Like he literally did not care. It was like just to get us to like break through any walls and learn how to just like, I guess let go when it came to writing and like our emotions and stuff. And so I used it as like my way to like journal, I guess. But that definitely encouraged me to like become a vulnerable songwriter too, because I was already doing that at like the same time and then just getting better and better and better at doing it because I had this teacher that was like, just speak your mind, like say what you want to say, you know what I mean? So I definitely owe it to him too.
okay, cool. And you would say like that's like one of your first moments of being like emotionally like vulnerable, like in your
Yeah, I would say it was a moment where I was like, this is how I need to write. You know what I mean? Like I liked it. It was how I released how I was feeling. And again, it was like something that I had like already started a little bit with like poetry and songwriting, but it was like probably taken to the next level there. Yeah.
okay.
I'm sure as you started to get like kind of that positive response and people wanting to hear your stuff, that like helps build your confidence to want to like open up more too, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like that was just the coolest thing. And just, realizing that it wasn't just like for me anymore. Cause at first it literally was, it was just something that I loved to do. And then it was like, oh, well, this can make somebody else understand what they're going through. Like, okay, yeah, I should probably do more of that, and just the fact that like it came very naturally to me, I think. And singing, definitely something I've like taught myself how to sing my whole life. I mean, I think you're always like, some people are like more naturally good at it, you know what I mean, from the get-go. But at the same time, like I worked really hard at it and like would listen to myself back and practice and practice and practice. And writing was something that I think it was always just like my strong suit from the beginning. Like even just creative writing, like I used to write like novels in like 4th grade. Like like I loved like creating different stories and all of everything that had to do with creative writing basically.
Yeah, I had a little, my parents had like an old computer and I remember like trying to like write a story and it was about like some little snake character who had like other animal friends, and I don't know what like inspired me to do that, but like just like I don't know, like reading as a kid, and I was like immediately like I wanted to like create, and I don't think I went anywhere with it. It was probably like a couple of sentences long, but I mean that's interesting that's
I just loved like getting lost in the world when I could do that and I could make it whatever I wanted it to be. And I remember in like 7th grade I was on like the journalism, team, and or no, sorry, this is 8th grade, and I was like the features editor, and I would get my work done like really, really fast, just so I could like add to my novel and like add another chapter. And
Oh, okay.
and it's funny though, because it's not like I was like showing anybody, like no one had any idea. It
Do you
was
still
just
have
like,
them?
yeah,
Yeah.
I do, and I'm just, it's some of them. I don't know where some of them are, but yeah, I found them. And then it was funny actually. My mom found like these, like the journal entries that I had written in 7th grade, and she found them on my birthday. Let's see, it would be not last year, the year before. And I'd just been looking for them, and it was like came at the perfect time, because it was like I was reading them, and it was like meeting my like 12-year-old self.
Mhm.
And I was just like, and it inspired my song Memories, actually, which is on my last EP. It's literally like that whole storyline, but kind of being like having perspective on like how far you've come, you know what I mean? And it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm not where I want to be, and not appreciating like, okay, like this song is 20,000 streams, that's really good. And then when other people's does 1 million, and you're like comparing yourself, you know what I mean? It's
Sure.
really, really easy to do that. And then thinking like, here's this like girl who like could barely sing in front of the class, she was so nervous, you know what I mean? Like, yet she was like, I'm gonna go after it, like I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna make everybody proud. And it was just so refreshing to like read and just be like, okay, things are good. You know what I mean? She would be so proud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
so it's fun when you get to find those mementos.
Yeah, I know I found a box of like old elementary school
Mhm.
art and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
fun to go back
Oh,
and
cool.
you're like, what was I
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah.
Like, what even is that?
I think the
Yeah.
weirdest part for me was like seeing, obviously, the younger version, which she had more insecurities, and she was immature and blah blah blah. But there was also like glimpses of who I am now, like in there,
Sure.
and like that was crazy to see. Like, okay, like there I am. You know what I mean? Like there she is. She's trying to peek through, and she has these aspirations and these visions, and now they're coming true. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, you're releasing like a new single like every month, like for your upcoming project. Let's hear
Mhm.
about the new project.
Yeah. So it's The Awakening Volume 2. I released The Awakening Volume 1, the first EP, at the end of March. And so that was kind of like very much my spiritual awakening, and like falling in love again, and a lot of the lessons that I had learned in self-discovery in that process. And then this is kind of the prequel to that. It was definitely like the beginning of that spiritual awakening. And I had just ended a relationship of like 5 years, and was like very raw, and asking a lot of, questions, fantasizing about a lot of different things, trying to figure myself out. And so a lot of that comes through. And also just like, yeah, trying to finally recognizing like what it was that I wanted, and why I was attracting certain things. For example, Boyish is on the EP, of course, and it's like that was written, at an way earlier stage. But when I kind of realized, okay, this is not what I want. I don't want this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just an example. And then 94, I was like dead in the middle of that situationship as I was writing the song. So that was really interesting. And then looking back at it now, it's like, whoa, different ending than I thought.
Yeah. Well, you brought a clip for us to hear. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about the clip? What are we going to listen to?
Yes, so you're gonna listen to 94. So yeah, that song, like I said, inspired by a situationship. It was like, I had met somebody like right before COVID, hit it off, nothing happened, the timing wasn't there. Immediately, like he had to move to, and then I found out he was coming back, and it was like all of like the what ifs like came flooding in.
Mm.
And I'd only really ever known him, not because we had ever dated, but like because there was something there, and we both had acknowledged it. So it wasn't like we were ever just like really friends, even though we were friends, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
And it was like walking on eggshells, like not really knowing like how to interact, like even though it was like, yeah, we're gonna be seeing each other again, like, but what does this mean? It doesn't have to mean something. How do I talk to you? Like we used to flirt, like what, you know what I mean? It was like very weird, and it felt like it was like one step forward, two steps back, not wanting to cross any lines, both being at different stages where it's like I finally was like kind of ready to like just be like, fuck it, you know what I mean? Like let's see what happens. Like it's been like a year since we saw each other, but like who cares? You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I remember when I had met him too, it was kind of this whole like, you were better. Like he was kind of one of those people where it kind of made me realize that like other people existed besides my ex that you know what I mean? I was like, okay, this can be a thing, this could be great. And I think that's why I'd held on to it for like so long. But it got to the point where I was just like so frustrated, almost like sarcastically, where it was like, it'd be cool if we could just see what's here before we're 94 years old. And that's kind of what inspired the song.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a listen.
It's been a long time coming, a long time since I've seen you. Yeah, we both been running so fast since the world fell apart. Never got to make history. Said, don't you wait for me. If it's gonna be, it's gonna be. No matter how far. You got yourself a New York apartment. 4 months, it's like you got lost in Soho. Oh, where did you go? Now you're leaving that New York apartment. We're back to right where we started. Oh, we're still alone. Oh, you can run all the red lights, baby, and I could call you tonight. We'll hate ourselves if we don't try. Why we gon' find all the reasons it ain't right? 'Cause heaven only knows the things we're wondering and what we might be missing. We're wasting time, let's find out if we're something and see what this is we could die before we wait. Tell me what we're waiting for. Yeah, it'd be cool if we could kiss before we're 94.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the
Man.
vibe.
those crescendos and those drops, you had that intimate like section with just you and the piano, like that drew me in.
Oh,
And then when you hit the chorus, like wow,
thanks.
that was rewarding. Like,
Thank
I can
you.
definitely relate to that
Yeah.
situationship as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's the worst. Thank you.
all right, and you've got another single release coming out in November, right? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's called Manifest, and I'm a big manifester. My whole EP, definitely has some spiritual references throughout it, but for me, like it's played a huge role in my life, and I've literally manifested being on the radio. I've manifested literally meeting the love of my life. Like I have like a vision board of all the things I've manifested, but I wrote this song because it was when I literally like couldn't get this dude like off my mind, and I felt like I was going insane. And I remember thinking like, fantasies are just like R-rated manifestations. And I was like, we all have them, okay? Like, why has nobody like written a song from that perspective? And I was like, for manifesting, like they always say, okay, well, you say it out loud or you write it out and it happens. And I was like, well, if I sing it, then it's bound to happen. And so that's kind of like what inspired this one. So it's definitely like on the more like sensual side, which I've never really like released a song in that space before.
Yeah.
But it's also, I'm hoping like kind of, again, sort of like empowering for women especially, but everybody, just to be confident in like putting that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Go after what you want.
Well, what's next for you? What do you got going on? Are you working on a project
Yeah.
while this one is releasing, or like, what are you
Yeah, I mean,
working
I'm always writing, always recording. So yes, there's so much music, but also very much like focused on getting these songs out there. They've kind of been my babies for a while, and making sure that they have a great visual content that goes with it. And I would love to get some merch going. So it's kind of another thing that's like on my radar right now, on top of just shows and stuff like that too. But yeah, definitely getting all the songs out there. So the next one's coming out in November.
Cool.
Mhm.
Well, where can people go to listen to it? Check out the new one, the new EP, everything?
Yeah. So I mean, ChloeCaroline.com is my website, but I'm on all socials. So Instagram at Chloe Caroline, TikTok at I'm Chloe Caroline, Twitter at I'm Chloe Caroline, Facebook Chloe Caroline Music, YouTube Chloe Caroline Music, and yeah, all my videos are there as well. So yeah, and then my number is actually in all of my bios, and it's actually me, not a robot. So for people that want to chat or stay up to date.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool, November. We can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
We want to buy some merch too. So we
Let's
can wear it on the
right?
podcast.
I know. I gotta get it going.
You got it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Chloe, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.